Okay, so now that we know how to represent domain and range both discretely and in interval, let's take a look at some function situations and find domains and range. So again, domain, we're talking about basically what covers the x-axis, and the range is where is the y-axis covered. That's covered. And so when we look at this first graph, I see a bunch of distinct, unique points. So I know this is going to be discrete. All right, and so when we take a look at the domain, what x values seem to be covered? Well, 3, right, -1. It looks like +1. It looks like 3, 4, 5, 6, and it looks like 6. So the domain consists of those 5 values, -3, -1, +1, 3, and 6. Because looking at the data points that are shown, right, that's where they're covering the x-axis at those 5 distinct points. What about my range? Well, let's look at where the y-axis is covered, right? So there's a y value there, a y value here, a y value, a y value, and a y value. And so going in order, it looks like we have -2, it looks like we have -1, that one is 0, +1, and +2. Use my curly brackets because we have a discrete set. And so these are the y values that basically cover, right, the data points that are shown. So there's your domain and there's your range for that discrete looking function. The next one's kind of a unique looking graph, but it is a function, right, passes the vertical line test. So domain, we're essentially asking, well, what x values are covered? And when I look at this, it looks like we got an x value covered there, here, 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 and I think I covered them all. So I believe we start all the way at -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So there's quite a few unique discrete points in there. What about the range? Well, again, we're looking at what covers the y. So there's a y value there, there's a y value, there's a y value, and there's a y value. So when I look at my range, the lowest y value seems to be 0, and then we have 1, and 2, and it looks like 3. So that would be our range. It only consists of 4 output values and is discrete. Alrighty, so again, what's covering the x, what's covering the y? Next video, or the next part, we actually have a function that is connected. We don't have a bunch of discrete points. So this tells me we're looking at interval. So looking at what shades the x-axis, it looks like we're starting here, and everything seems to be shaded or being used. There's a function associated with it all the way to that value. So what bounds me to the left, that looks like -4. What bounds me to the right, that looks like +2. Because I have a closed circle and a closed circle, that means that my endpoints are going to have brackets on them. They will be closed. Range, we're talking about what's shading the y-axis. So it looks like the lowest y value starts about here, right? And we're going to shade, we're going to shade, we're going to shade, we're going to shade until we get about right there. So it looks like our lowest value is 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like our highest value is 5. We do have closed values, so we're going to close that. And we do assume the value of 5 right there. We can actually be equal to 5. So that means that 5 is included in the range. So there would be your interval notation, and note we're covered. Where's the x-axis covered, and where's the y-axis covered with regard to finding the interval sets? All right, let's do one more, and then we'll cut off and go to another video. But in this next one, again, we're connected. We have an open circle here, and then there's a nice solid line. We're not discrete points. We have a nice solid line. So again, this tells me we're talking about interval. What part of the x-axis is covered? Well, we start for that, and we're basically covered all the way to that value there. So it bounds me to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That looks like -6. This is the domain, by the way. What bounds me to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is open, so we're going to have a parentheses at -6, and that's closed. So we're going to have a bracket at 4. So there's your domain for that function. What about the range? Well, now we're looking at where's the y-axis covered. So at a very minimum, right, we're about there, and we're covered all the way up 2 right there, right? Because we do assume that peak value. So looking at what bounds me below, it looks like -2. What bounds me above is 3. We're open right here, so we have an open parentheses at -2, and then we do assume the value of 3, so we can be equal to 3. All right, and you might even want to mimic what we see along there, right? Even over here, right? Closed, 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 closed. Just mimic what's on the graph. All right, so I think I'm getting a little over time, so I'm going to stop this one and we'll just do another round of examples where we find domain and range based off of a picture.